That doesn't look too bad. Actually just looks coolant color. Welcome back to Living with a Classic and part 2 of getting this 1972 Rover P6 back on the road. The previous part, I started with an oil change, did some flushing to get that out. Or not really flushing, but I used a thin oil in it for a little while to clean it out. That's still in there. So in today's video, we're going to get that out of there and put in the correct 20W50. And I also fixed the brakes, so they all work now and have new brake hoses, so that's really good. Today's video though, I want to flush out the coolant system, replace all the coolant hoses, the thermostat, go through all of that, make sure we have a good coolant system, flush the block, the radiator, you name it, and hopefully in the next couple days or so, we can take this over to get inspected so it can really be back on the road. Of course, if you haven't followed along from the beginning, I found this thing sitting in a barn for quite a lot of years, but it's a very solid P6. There's no rust in it and it's in very good shape. I'm just going through things that it needs because it's been sitting. Like this coolant hose up here it's rock solid. You don't want that cracking and overheating the engine, so I have this kit with all new hoses and everything. So first job is to drain the radiator. I believe there's a drain on it, but I don't want to use that. We will just cut the bottom hose. I'm sorry, it's dark, but right down there is the bottom hose. I'm going to cut that, let it all drain out, and then we can push it outside, get the garden hose out, flush everything out, see if we can get the thermostat housing off, and just flush the block, flush the heater core, and flush out the radiator so everything is nice and clean, ready for some new hoses and new coolant. I'm going to try and not make such a big mess, so I just cut a little bit of a hole in there. It's like a screwdriver in the lower rad hose. And it's going to take a while, but I tried opening up the cap and then it just, really squirted it out. So I want to try and catch most of it, not have it all on the ground. So we'll do this method. Yes, over there is a drain on the radiator. I have a feeling if I touch that, it's going to leak. It's not leaking at the moment, so we'll let that be, and I'll just go do something else for a while this drains. All the coolant is drained out now. It's getting a little bit late, but I want to do one thing. I just want to see if I can even touch those bolts there on the thermostat housing. I did spray them down yesterday with some penetrating fluid, so hopefully that should help. Wonder if this actually should be on here or not. These seem logical, but this one on here, not really sure about that. But we may or may not put that back. So let's try these. I have bought new hose clamps for the whole engine, so that will look nice. So far the engine seems pretty oil tight. I haven't seen any leaks underneath at all from the time I've run it. The only thing I've seen a little bit of wetness around is where the steering box is. This one doesn't have power steering, but I know there's oil in the steering box and it's not actively dripping, but you can see some of the under seal around there is a little bit wet, but doesn't seem to be a big deal. Otherwise this thing is very oil tight actually. We'll see how much that changes when I start using it. This hose it's fantastically rock solid. Let's see if this one will just pop off. I don't know, maybe. There we go. That can go in the bin. And doesn't look too bad actually. I'll bring you guys in for a closer look. It's not that corroded actually. Looks good on the inside. So it's these two, if I can get those off. We'll hit them with penetrating fluid one more time. I'll try it just a little bit gently. If they're very stuck, I may just crack it a tiny bit and then we'll spray in and let that sit. if they seem absolutely impossible to get off, I'm going to let them be for now, because the thermostat does actually open and does what it should. And then, if there's a chance that I snap these, I'd rather, take the intake off and do it all in the bench than here on the engine. But we'll give it a shot. Hit it one more time. The reason I'm worried about them is right here there was a little bit of a mouse nest, and animal urine is not that great for corrosion. But we'll see. Okay, that moved. Okay, we are making progress. Before we get too carried away, let's try the one down here. Oh, that moves as well. Okay. I'll work these back and forth a little bit, and then I'll report when I've gotten this housing off, or when I've hopefully gotten this housing off. I got the bottom one out, and the top one is almost out. Just being patient, working it back and forth, and seems like it's worked. Yeah, they were pretty corroded. So we'll clean those up. Clean up the threads as well. But the housing itself is not in bad shape. I have a new gasket for it. And I'll clean this all up. So that's not bad. And I do have a new thermostat as well. I'm just interested to see which one is here. I think I got the 82-degree one, and this is an 88. I think it was the 82 one I got, but we'll see. But yeah, that's good. That would be great for flushing the intake tomorrow. But yeah, it's getting pretty late, so I'm gonna call it a night. Then tomorrow we'll push the car outside, undo the bottom hose, and then just flush the radiator, flush the block, and then undo the back, flush the heater core. And then all of that can dry out, put on new hoses, new coolant, and then we can move on knowing that the coolant system is in good shape. It's the next day, and I stayed up a little bit later and got all the hoses off. Gonna push it outside to flush it now. Have a look at that. That is one of the hoses to the heater. Just look how plugged that is on the water pump. It's the only one I've seen that was really badly plugged. So I'm gonna hit that with a screwdriver, push that through, and then flush everything. So I'll push it outside. We can flush it. It's extremely windy, so I'm not sure about filming this, but hopefully it won't be too much wind on the camera. Flushing the radiator, flush the block, and flush the heater core up there. So there's really no special technique to this. I just don't want to get anything too wet. So I just have a regular garden hose here. And for instance, let's start there where we had that blockage. I cleared it with a screwdriver. And we'll just flush it through. And that's good. I want to put it into the bottom of the radiator because you want to reverse flush things at first. So we'll stuck that in there, and I'm gonna put my hand over it to sort of try and block that, and it should come up here. We'll see what that looks like. That doesn't look too bad. Actually, this looks coolant color. But we'll let that flow for a couple minutes. It's really, really cold, actually. But don't do this in spring. Do this in summer. That is very nice and clean. I don't see any issues with that. The coolant that came out was really clean as well. And nothing bad came out the bottom either. This is all looking really, really good. I think the only thing really left is the heater core. It was very clean, the coolant that came out of the heater core as well. We're going to do the block also, but we'll do the heater core next. Careful not to get any water into the carbs. Flowing nicely. A little bit of dirt there, but this is really nothing. Really happy with that, quite clean. Now I'm just going to try and do the returns, or the two heater connections back there on the intake. I think I need both my hands for that, but so far I haven't found anything. I'll let you guys know if I do, and then I'm just going to flush through the front there where the thermostat housing is. All flushing through nicely, nice and clean, no problems at all. Alright, that came out really well. The only tiny bit of dirt I saw was actually coming out of the heater core, but not very much at all. So it seems to be a good clean coolant system. This blockage was unfortunate, so we're happy I caught that. Let this dry a little bit out here in the sun, and then I'll use my winch to pull it in case you don't know. The other end of the workshop, in that wall, I have a winch bolted through the wall on a big piece of steel in the back, and it's great for pulling cars in. And then come out later tonight, once everything's dried up in the workshop a bit, and fit new coolant hoses. The only thing I'm doing now is, yes, there was pretty much no coolant left in the car. The one I had, I've taken care of. I'm going to take it to a recycling center. But because we have animals and all that, I'm just going to let the water run here for a little bit. Make sure it's super, super diluted, if any at all came out. I've started replacing the hoses, or putting new ones on. I got the back heater hoses on, and I've cleaned up everything up front here to get the bypass hoses on. But I thought trying to clean this port up here would be easier with this little bracket out of the way. And I do have a new fan belt, so I'm going to fit that as well when everything is done. So I'll move this bracket out of the way. I can fit the two bypass hoses here. Then it's just a new thermostat, lower radiator hose, and the upper hose. And then the whole coolant system has been gone through. Got the thermostat housing here. I've cleaned it up. It's not too pitted, so I think it should be fine. Put a new gasket on there with some Highland blue. I have new thermostat. This one's an 82. I think I did some research on the forums. That seemed to be a good recommendation. This is just going to be a summer car, so I think that's good. If I feel like it's running too cold, I can always swap it out. And I've cleaned up the bolts here, and I've cleaned up the threads in there. So then, once that's on, it's just this top hose left and the little vent hose up here. That was completely blocked as well, so I cleared that with a drill bit and blew some compressed air through there. So I'm making sure that the jiggle pin is up top. And getting this on. So far, this engine is, or the car in general, is really great to work on. There's a lot of space around the engine bay, and all the hoses and everything have been really easy to get to. So I guess if you're like me, used to working on Jag V12s, then everything is easy and has a lot of space. Yeah, I have a new belt on as well. That's tensioned. So yeah, Let me snug that down, get the top hose on, and this vent hose here. Then we can start filling up the coolant system and burping it with air. According to the sign over here, it's 8.5 liters in the coolant system. So I have bought new coolant enough to get about a 60-40 mix of 40% antifreeze, 60% distilled water. So I'm going to start filling it up here. We'll see how much we get in the whole system before we fire it up. I'm going to add a little bit of water now, just to mix it. This is distilled water, of course. Starting to see it at the top of the radiator here. Add a bit more. Okay, it just burped out there, so we're pretty much at the max now. I'm going to put on the cap just temporarily, fire it up, open up the cap, and start filling up the rest of the system. Since there is an incline into my workshop, I'm going to use that to help lead the whole system. So back it out, I have the car on the incline with the nose pointing up. So we have about half the coolant in there at the moment, so we'll fire it up. And into reverse. Perfect. Got the nose pointing straight up. We'll open up the radiator and get the rest of the coolant in there. Let's see. There is no heater valve on this P6. The heating control is done by flaps, so heater should, of course, always have flow through it. We are about an inch down. We'll add a bit. Pretty much at the top. Now we're just waiting for it to start circulating a little more, thermostat to open up. When that happens, it will get most of the air out. But it does, I think, help having it on an incline like this. See that? It's starting to go down a little bit, and we're starting to see a little bit of filter flow through there. I just added about another liter or so. Let's see. 47.5 degrees up behind the thermostat. So halfway there through the opening. I have the choke on a little bit just to keep the revs up. Temperature starting to come up, and I am feeling hot air coming out of the heater, so that is working as well. I can turn that off. But pretty soon the thermostat should open. Let's check. We have 89 here and 70 at the other end of the thermostat. So I think it should be starting to open. I'm feeling warm here and not so warm here. And the level is dropping a little bit. So it seems like we're getting most of the air out of it. Gonna give it a couple revs, see if that helps get any air bubbles out. nice and hot, ready to drain that oil. Just look at how black that oil is just after, 20-minute runtime. So it's a good thing we're doing this, getting it out and then putting the nice fresh stuff in. I have pre-filled a new oil filter as much as I can. Put a light smear of oil on the seal, install that, and then we're ready to pour the new oil into the engine. Now we're adding the last of the oil here. This time, of course, I'm using my favorite oil for classics. It's Castrol Classic 20W50, great mineral oil with a lot of zinc in it. Pre-filled the filter, which I try and do on most cars, but it's very important on these because it's quite easy to get an air cavity in the oil pump and then you can't build oil pressure. So I'm hoping that by filling it the way I did, hoping I won't have any issues getting oil pressure on startup. Please build oil pressure quickly. I'm going to give it a little bit of choke. Yes, oil pressure. See the gauge coming up there. Perfect. Let me shut it down, check the level, and fill up a little bit more. Well, that's it for this video. The engine oil level is correct now and nice clean Castrol 20W50 in it. The whole coolant system has been flushed out and seems to be in good order with new hoses and new thermostat, and there are no leaks. Join me in the next video on this car where we'll do a tune-up, so some ignition components, new points, set all of that set well, some new plugs, and then also tune the carbs and take this thing for a test drive. I still really haven't driven it, so I'm really looking forward to that. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Till next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.